Chosen one, begin where electricity is born, in the quiet station of your chest, in the subtlest currents that move before thought has a name for them. Sit with the morning the way a musician tunes a string, slowly, precisely, until the faintest hum becomes true. Let breath be your first prayer and posture your second, because the world feels your voltage long before it hears your voice. You are asked to become a generator of humane power, not a flare that scorches and vanishes. Power of this kind does not shout, it brightens. It does not conquer rooms, it calibrates them. Feminine women sense it in an instant, like the lift in the air before rain that knows how to bless a thirsty field. They are not drawn to spectacle, they are drawn to coherence, to a life whose inner wires have been soldered by devotion rather than fused by urgency. When you arrive aligned, fatigue remembers it is not the only climate available, and old discouragements loosen their grip as if a window had been opened from the inside. To become uplifting is to become trustworthy with elevation. You cannot lift what you secretly resent, and you cannot elevate while feeding the quiet appetite to be above. Your soul must make a covenant with updrafts. I will rise only in ways that let others rise with me. So, you rehearse small obediences that teach gravity a new story. You choose sentences that return courage to ordinary moments. You keep a promise that no one recorded except heaven and a tired heart that needed a reason to keep believing in men. You send a message that does not audition for attention, but delivers steadiness on time, as if faithfulness could be felt through glass. You enter a room having tended your own weather, refusing to draft strangers into regulating your mood. This is why your presence electrifies without alarming. Voltage wrapped in virtue, heat braided with humility. There is a tone to such energy, low and generous, the tone of a river that learned how to carry both joy boats and work boats without capsizing either. Your preparation happens in places without applause. You learn to welcome quiet as a teacher, to let scripture, poetry, and unmanufactured sky repair the torn edge of your attention. You let your body remember its first vocation, being a living place for kindness, and you move it as if strength were a sanctuary, not a stage. You practice gratitude until it becomes an instinct rather than a posture. Thank you for the breath that arrived without a receipt, for the bread that tastes like sunlight stored in grain, for the name I can speak with tenderness and mean it. Gratitude is conductive. It allows grace to travel farther on fewer wires. The more you practice it, the less you need theatrics, and the more people around you feel their own capacity come back online. Women who have been overexposed to noise and underexposed to nourishment can tell when a man's brightness is borrowed from attention and when it is powered by devotion. They lean toward the latter as plants lean toward a window they can trust not to slam shut. Uplift is not the opposite of sorrow. It is sorrow transfigured into strength. To be awakening in your effect, you must keep company with honest grief until it distills into compassion. You will sit beside loss without throwing blankets of easy phrases over a fire that needed air. You will remember dates that the world forgets and acknowledge them with gentleness, saying without fanfare, I have not moved on from honoring what shaped you. Electricity that heals does not numb, it illumines. It makes pain navigable by refusing to make it perform. When you carry that kind of light, faces soften even before they realize why, and the body, which is wiser than the mind in matters of safety, unclenches as if dismissing a needless guard. Your words must learn the art of voltage control. There are rooms that require a surge, the sentence that wakes a sleeping courage, the laugh that sends shame back to its corner. There are rooms that require a dimmer, the whisper that protects a fragile truth, pause that lets another voice arrive. To prepare for both, you apprentice your tongue to blessing. You select praise that enlarges without exaggeration and critique that corrects without humiliation. You refuse sarcasm that would win at the cost of wonder. You become unhurried in your listening, because the fastest way to charge a heart is to let it speak at its own speed and still be met. Women have learned to map attention the way navigators map wind. They can tell when you are truly with them and not merely waiting to be seen being with them. True presence conducts hope. It does not need to announce its wattage. The room reports it by how people breathe. Electrifying does not mean intense every minute. It means alive in the right places. You will cultivate a rhythm that gives both joy and peace a seat at your table. Joy, because celebration is a theology with its own proofs, and peace, because power without rest becomes noise. The rhythm begins with Sabbath, that is not performance, 1 hour or 1 evening where production is not allowed to purchase your worth. In that interval, you let beauty work on your edges, you let silence remind your ambition it has a shepherd, and you let laughter come without a camera. You return to the week carrying that softness in your eyes, and others, especially those whose feminine genius for atmosphere has kept too many rooms alive, sense in you an ally. They are not asked to soothe you, they are invited to be themselves. Electrifying is also directional. Lightning without aim scares, lightning rods make buildings safer. Aim your current at making goodness easier. If you have access, you open doors and hold them without narrating your generosity. If you have clarity, you translate complexity into steps a tired person can take. If you have strength, you carry part of the weight in a way that does not infantilize. And if you have joy, you distribute it like bread that refuses to run out. These are not grand gestures. They are ordinary sacraments. The chosen ones practice them until rooms begin to expect relief when they arrive. Expectation of relief is the truest compliment presents can receive. Do not forget beauty. Beauty is a conductor of hope, a means by which souls agree to try again. You will set a table like a blessing, clean glass, light placed with care, objects chosen for usefulness and grace. You will write a note in your own hand when a screen would be cheap because ink slows the heart to a humane pace. You will learn the names of small things, a bird that keeps singing after rain, a streetlight that flickers like a heartbeat returning, to remind yourself that the world has rehearsed resurrection for a very long time. When you bring beauty forward, you are not decorating life. You are declaring it worth the trouble. Feminine women, who often carry beauty as both labor and gift, will recognize in you a partner in the priesthood of making things lovely enough to heal. And when desire enters the circle, as it should, because life abundant is never bloodless, you will be unashamed of your warmth and unhurried with its expression. You will let admiration speak in sentences that leave agency intact. You will pursue without pressuring, reveal without performing, lead without eclipsing. The electricity others feel will not be a trap. It will be a path lit well enough to see where the next honest step belongs. That is how awakening becomes sustainable, not by stunning a heart into surrender, but by strengthening it to walk. Chosen one, revival is not a tent or a poster. It is a human life that has become spacious enough for breath to move through other lives freely. To carry revival, you must learn the difference between hype and heat. Hype is loud because it is afraid. Heat is steady because it knows where it came from. Let your energy be heat. It should arrive like the return of electricity to a neighborhood after a long outage. Lights flicker, then hold. Fridges hum. Music remembers itself. People step onto porches and cheer not for the wires, but for the life those wires allow. That is your assignment, to be a conduit that makes other people's aliveness practical again. Begin with how you enter. Revival energy does not kick doors. It knocks, listens, and steps across thresholds as if houses had memories, which they do. You greet the first face you see with your whole attention, not because you are networking, but because reverence is efficient. Every soul you honor early is a circuit closed. Every dignity you bless sets current flowing. You take the temperature before you try to fix the weather. If the room is exhausted, you do not add caffeine, you add clarity. If the room is anxious, you do not compete with the volume, you introduce rhythm. If the room is apathetic, you do not shame it, you remind it gently of what still stirs when called by its right name. Feminine women, whose inner instruments can read climate changes faster than speech, will register the way your steadiness midwives momentum. They will not feel managed, they will feel met. Revival energy is contagious because it respects immunity. You do not force participation, you furnish invitation. You say let's and we rather than watch me. You design moments that ask very little of ego and a great deal of heart. Questions that cannot be answered with a performance. Tasks that praise quiet competence. Celebrations that focus on progress instead of perfection. You resist the cheap electricity of outrage and the counterfeit voltage of gossip. Both burn hot and die fast, leaving scorch marks on the spirit. You choose current sources that last, gratitude that refuses to be rare, truth that refuses to be cruel, humor that refuses to be mean, courage that refuses to be theatrical. Over time, the whole grid changes. People bring their best selves online because the system supports it. To prepare for this kind of work, you must reconcile with pace. Revival cannot be microwaved. It is baked at temperatures that honor texture. You will stay long enough to earn trust and leave soon enough to teach rooms they can continue without your shadow on their wall. You will adopt the clock of gardeners. Sow faithfully, tend humbly, harvest gratefully, rest Sabbathly. The impatience that once made you overfunction will learn to speak a different language. I can wait for fruit I did not force. Women who have been taught by experience to be suspicious of whirlwind charm will test your endurance, and finding it gentle, will begin to place heavier dreams on the table. They do not need you to carry them. They need you to protect the conditions where they can grow. That is revival. Your energy is practical. It funds the unseen labor of restoration. You will be the one who arrives early enough to light the room and stays late enough to stack the chairs, not because you have low standards for your gifts, but because power is most credible when it stoops. You will write the follow-up that saves 6 people an hour tomorrow. You will connect 2 souls who needed each other's skills and then step out of the photo. You will remember the name of the song that repaired a long evening and send it quietly so that gratitude has a place to land. All of this reads as uplift because it removes friction. People move freely where you have worked, and freedom is the native air of revival. There is also a holiness to your interruptions. You will put your palm against the wheel when momentum is dragging the moment toward harm, and say in simple words, "We don't do it that way here." Your tone will be calm because the truth is your ally. Your eyes will be kind because the person is not the problem, the pattern is. You will make amends when you misread, quickly and specifically. You will say thank you when corrected, because humility keeps current clean. Women who have had to spend their courage on policing rooms will breathe when they see you spend yours on protection. That exhale is revival's anthem in one clear note. Keep wonder at the center of your voltage. Without wonder, electricity becomes entertainment. With wonder, it becomes sacrament. You will notice simple glories and say them out loud. The way steam curls from a cup on a winter morning, the way a child's question sets a table for wisdom, the way the city gleams after rain as if polished by forgiveness. These are not tangents, they are tonics. Wonder detoxifies cynicism and keeps zeal from turning brittle. It reminds the heart that the world is larger than the room and kinder than the headline. In such air, people risk tenderness again. Tenderness is the soil where revival seeds take root. Guard your power supply. You cannot pour from a battery you refuse to charge. Sleep becomes an ethics, not an indulgence. Movement becomes prayer with muscles. Silence becomes the workshop where next day's gentleness is built. Friendship becomes maintenance on the soul's machinery, especially the friends who refuse to flatter you into blindness. You will decline opportunities that overdraw your account, even when applause tries to co-sign the loan. You will accept assignments scaled to grace, not to insecurity's appetite. The chosen ones learn this arithmetic together, refusing to bankrupt the very gifts they were given to steward. When love enters the circuit, romantic, familial, communal, it will not be asked to power your identity. It will be invited to share a grid already humming with purpose. That is why it will feel like play instead of pressure. You will be capable of fastening the small, shining moments to the larger story without turning either into content. A hand held during bad news, a meal cooked while laughter learns a new octave. A walk where neither of you says anything for 5 streets and both of you say everything without words. These are revival's liturgies scaled to human afternoons. They are how electricity becomes home. Go on then, chosen one. Let your energy be the benediction that sneaks into ordinary hours and changes their flavor. Let it lift without lifting itself, spark without scorching, brighten without blinding. Let those who meet you leave with their posture a little taller and their hope a shade louder. Not because you performed a miracle, but because you remembered how to be one, quietly, consistently, like power lines singing at dusk, carrying light to houses where people will eat, talk, forgive, and try again. That is the work. That is the revival, and you were made for it. Chosen one, a smile is often mistaken for decoration, a polite flourish on the surface of a day. Yours is an instrument. It does not accessorize, it attunes. Before your lips lift, something inside you aligns with what is true and good, like a musician quietly striking A in an empty hall. The hall is your chest. The A is consent to reality, nothing added, nothing shaved off. When that consent sounds, your face answers. The corners rise not to persuade, but to witness. In that instant, the room learns the difference between performance and presence. The air steadies, and nervous systems, especially those trained by long weather to brace, begin to unclench because you have set a frequency that welcomes rather than weighs. Train this instrument in private, where applause cannot counterfeit resonance. Remember a mercy that arrived before you deserved it. Recall a correction that kept you whole. Let gratitude travel through muscle and bone until your cheeks learn proportion and your eyes learn softness. A smile built from gratitude carries no hooks. It does not rent space in another person's attention. It offers shelter in your own. Feminine women hear the tone immediately. They do not meet advertisement. They meet assurance, the quiet confidence that joy has survived its audits and can afford to be generous. Your smile begins long before your mouth. It begins in the choices you make with your mind. You choose curiosity over conclusion, blessing over appraisal, wonder over cynicism, and then your features follow the path your spirit cleared. When you greet a stranger, you are not claiming them as audience or inventory. You are acknowledging them as a world. Worlds open to acknowledgement. Lips answer acknowledgement with release. Release spreads like good weather. Notice how shoulders sink a quarter inch, how breath descends into the deeper house, how eyes return to their preferred brightness. None of this is magic. It is the physiology of welcome, and your smile is its liturgy. You refuse the counterfeit varieties, the grin that bargains for attention, the smirk that turns intelligence into a blade, the mask that performs ease to avoid intimacy. Each of those requires someone else to pay for your comfort. You have retired them because you would rather bless than bill. In their place, you keep one expression that tells the truth at different volumes. In humor, it widens and gives permission for play that doesn't spend dignity. In sorrow, it narrows into tenderness and promises companionship without hurry. In conflict, it holds steady so courage can enter without needing to roar. One instrument, many keys, all tuned to reverence. You practice with small, deliberate acts. You say thank you with your face before you find the word. You let your mouth become a lantern in corridors that confuse. Hospital hallways, bureaucratic counters, mornings that forgot how to be kind. You offer that light without making the corridor about you. When a story halts on a hard memory, your lips do not paste cheer over pain. They keep warmth near the edges so the teller can keep going. When a triumph arrives, your smile refuses envy's tiny thefts. It expands to make room for someone else's coronation and keeps your name out of the credits. Rehearsed this way, your smile becomes credible. Credibility is the bridge over which electricity travels safely. There is a timing to this instrument, and you respect it. Sometimes the most loving thing your face can do is rest. You let quiet own its moment. You do not interrupt the sentence a soul is building just because you are good at lighting rooms. You learn to hold your brightness like a candle in cupped hands when wind would make a torch dangerous. In return, people offer you the unguarded versions of themselves that comedy cannot earn and intensity cannot coerce. They trust that your expression will not betray them to an audience they did not invite. Trust is tone you cannot fake, and your smile carries it like a note that lingers in the rafters after the choir has gone home. Your posture helps your face tell the truth. When you smile, your shoulders do not climb, they settle. Your jaw is not clenched into charm, it is released into kindness. The body knows when a face is lying and will signal the deception. Yours never has to negotiate with itself. Integrity is resonance. Resonance is why the same expression can bless the barista at dawn, the elder at dusk, the child at the bottom of the stairs practicing bravery. To each, your smile says a tailored sentence, I see you. There is time. We can meet here without losing ourselves. That sentence, if spoken 1,000 times without words, becomes character. There will be invitations to monetize the instrument, to turn light into leverage. Resist them. Do not use your smile to postpone the difficult conversation that honesty would make shorter. Do not deploy it to collapse someone else's boundary into pliancy. Do not spray it as confetti to keep attention circling you when attention belongs on the work at hand. Instead, use it to frame truth so it can be received, to soften a doorway without blurring the threshold, to start the pulse of courage that allows a room to tidy itself. Chosen ones are entrusted with faces that can carry blessing. They do not rent those faces to need. Remember the ecology of your expression. A smile costs energy. You keep it powered by the quiet disciplines that renew voltage without noise. Sleep that honors tomorrow, food that reminds you the earth is generous, stillness that returns your name to its proper size, friendship that laughs at your seriousness before it becomes severity. When you come into the world charged by such sources, you do not have to harvest the mood of others to keep shining. You can be a tuning fork and not a siphon. And when love is near, romantic, familial, communal, your smile becomes covenant. It lifts not to lure but to lean. It anchors the moment in yes without smuggling in pressure. It says, I am with you at a wattage that does not threaten to outshine you. The beauty of this is simple. No one must dim for you to brighten. This is the difference between charisma and kindness, between spectacle and sacrament. Your smile chooses sacrament. It tunes what is human until the room hums with its best pitch, and then it steps aside so the song can belong to those who are singing. Chosen one, every space holds a battery you cannot see. Some rooms arrive drained by worry's quiet theft, some overclocked by ambition's fever, some flickering because truth and trust are not on speaking terms. When you enter, you are not there to be the power source itself, as if life depended on you. You are there to restore the circuit. Recharging is less about distributing your voltage and more about repairing the pathways through which the room's own energy returns to usefulness. The way you stand, listen, arrange, bless, that is wiring work. When it is done well, people forget to credit you because they are too busy feeling alive again. This is as it should be. You begin with atmosphere, not agenda. You take the temperature, the way a gardener tests soil before choosing seed. Is the air brittle with perfectionism, heavy with unspoken grief, tangled with competing tempos? You do not diagnose out loud, you adjust your pace. If the space is fast and shallow, you walk in with slowness that does not scold but seduces. If the space is stagnant, you arrive with a clear rhythm that invites rather than commands. If bravado has bullied tenderness to the edges, you recenter tenderness with a simple, unafraid sentence that makes bravado look tired next to it. Nothing dramatic. Just a new pattern offered with the confidence of someone who knows how humans breathe when they are safe. Your presence is practical. You refill the small reservoirs that always run out first. You pour water before cleverness. You open windows before opinions. You locate the one chair that wobbles and correct it. The one voice that's been sitting on its hands and welcome it. The one task that everyone is avoiding because no one wants to be seen doing it, and do it without announcement. Recharging begins with removing friction. When friction leaves, warmth can arrive without burning. Women whose labor has too often been invisible feel the relief first. Someone has finally joined them in the sacrament of making spaces livable. You carry a grammar that rooms understand. Your words make verbs out of things that had been nouns too long. We care becomes we will care like this today. We need rest becomes we will end 10 minutes early and guard the end. We value honesty becomes I will go first with the truth that makes my pride itch. Language like this plugs purpose back into outlets. It convinces weary minds that ideas can become arrangements, and arrangements can become habits. You are not there to impress a philosophy upon the room. You are there to apprentice it to a cadence. The cadence is mercy married to momentum. There is a choreography to how you move, and it is contagious. You do not interrupt the person whose courage is rising just because your anecdote would land. You do not rush the person who is building a bridge from silence. You fill the kettle when the story is heavy. You clear cups when the decision is near. You sit, really sit, when someone's grief walks in before they do. You stand when leadership needs a body to absorb heat meant for the timid. At the level of wrists and ankles, you keep showing the room how to care. Bodies learn faster than minds. Soon the room is mirroring you without meaning to, and the charge lifts because care is the best conductor we have. Your authority is a steady hand on the dimmer, not a thumb on the switch. You are not addicted to brightness. You know when to lower the lights so honesty can find its words, when to soften the volume so nuance can enter, when to brighten the room so joy stops apologizing for being contagious. This is not manipulation. It is stewardship of tone. A steward is invisible at their best, felt more than seen, thanked by the absence of trouble. Recharging feels like that. Fewer sparks where they don't belong, more light where it's needed, and the quiet surprise of ease returning to faces. Of course, there will be moments that need surge, a rescue, a boundary, a truth that if delayed will become more expensive for everyone. When those moments come, you move as a well-governed storm, precise, brief, accountable. You intervene and then you return the room to its human size. The more you practice this, the more others will dare to practice it as well. Courage, observed, breeds courage. It also lowers the tax on women who have carried the thankless work of holding spaces together while charm took bows. When you shoulder that cost without ceremony, a treasury of trust opens. The interest it pays is presence that does not have to be negotiated. You refuse the counterfeit charge that outrage offers. Outrage can gather a room fast, and sometimes it is righteous, but as a battery it corrodes. You prefer the slower voltage of shared purpose. You ask questions that move attention from villains to possibilities. You name harm without letting harm claim the last word. You insist on repair, you put dates on promises, you seed celebrations into calendars so joy has scheduled rites. It is astonishing how much power returns to a space that knows when it will next gather to say thank you. Gratitude is a circuit breaker for despair. Rituals become your quiet tools. You start on time because trust uses clocks to keep its heart rate low. You end on time because love has errands after meetings. You bless beginnings with a small sentence that makes the work sacred. You bless endings with a small act, stacked chairs, sent notes, washed mugs, that turns intention into care. Repetition like this charges a culture until newcomers can feel the current the moment they step inside. They do not know who started it. They know they wish to continue it. That is the mark of a room genuinely recharged. It sustains itself. Guard your own battery with the seriousness of someone who has learned that depletion masquerades as nobility until it becomes harm. You step away before your kindness gets thin. You say no in sentences that keep doors unbroken. You keep companionship near, voices that tell you the truth without dimming your joy. You let the body rest long enough for the face to tell the truth without effort. Then, when you return, people meet the same man who left, not a ghost using posture to impersonate presence. Consistency is a kind of electricity. It allows others to plug in without fear of surges. When love crosses your threshold, you do not ask it to power your life. You invite it to share a grid already humming. This is why the evenings you host feel like hearth, why a simple meal becomes multiplied into memory, why a walk becomes an exhale 2 blocks long. You do not seduce a room into dependency, you shepherd it into competence. The highest compliment anyone can pay you is the quiet one. After you left, we kept going, and it was easier than before. That sentence is a testimony written in the past tense because of what you made possible in the present. Walk on in this calling. Enter rooms like a weather pattern that leaves gardens greener and machines running cooler. Stand at thresholds with the unhurried readiness of someone who knows he is not the point, yet makes the point possible. Let the charge you carry be the kind that lifts hands without occupying them, that wakes courage without shaming fear, that turns strangers into neighbors and neighbors into friends. If anyone later tries to explain why the air felt different when you were there, they will borrow words like uplifting and electrifying, and they will be right, though they will have missed the simplest explanation of all. You remembered the room had a heart, and you helped it beat. Chosen one, patience is not waiting in disguise. It is craftsmanship with time as your material. You are not idle while the day decides itself. You are shaping hours the way a luthier bends wood with steam and intention until sound can live there. The feminine heart has learned to treat hurry like sirens. It pulls over, it braces, it prepares to be written a ticket by someone else's urgency. When you arrive without sirens, when your pace carries mercy and not demand, muscles remember softness they thought was gone for good. This is why patience is not merely attractive, it is medicinal. It returns the nervous system to a speed where love can be believed. Begin by keeping an honest calendar inside your chest. The world schedules you with alarms and labels. Your spirit needs seasons. Know the difference between a seed week and a harvest week, between a day fit for building and a day fit for listening, between the hour to act and the hour to watch weather. When you honor seasons, you stop forcing blossoms to impersonate fruit. You ask questions and then let silence finish them. You make an invitation and then give dignity time to answer. You say, "I'm here," not as a fishing line, but as a shoreline that will still exist if the boat circles twice before docking. Patience becomes topography. Women feel it underfoot. It holds.